When you're not around, what a woman really feels comes down to one powerful thing: contrast. She begins to compare what life feels like when you're there versus when you're gone. If you've been a man who brings joy, laughter, stability, and a calm, grounded energy into her world, your absence highlights that difference. Suddenly, there's a space she notices. The conversations that used to brighten her day, the way your presence made her feel at ease, the way your energy filled the room. When that's not there, it leaves a void. That void is where missing you is born. Many men misunderstand this. They think that if they're not constantly present, a woman will forget about them. So they try to fill every gap with texts, calls, and constant reminders of their existence. But that actually ruins the contrast. If you never give her space to feel your absence, she never has the chance to miss you. And without missing you, she never truly values your presence. It's only in the silence, in the empty spaces, that the feelings of longing have room to grow. When you're not around, she doesn't just notice the physical absence, she notices the emotional one. Think about the way you make her feel when you're with her. Do you give her a sense of peace? Do you make her laugh effortlessly? Do you inspire her to be more of herself? The answer is yes. Then those feelings become a reference point in her mind. When you step away, even for a little while, she unconsciously measures her current state against what she felt with you. And if the present feels less fulfilling without you, that's when she truly starts to miss you. But contrast works both ways. If being around you fills her with stress, drama, or insecurity, then your absence can actually feel like relief. Instead of missing you, she feels lighter when you're gone. That's why it's not enough to just create space. You have to make sure that the experiences you give her when you are around are positive, uplifting, and memorable. That's what makes her feel the weight of your absence in a way that draws her back to you. Imagine this: two men handle absence differently. One is constantly calling, texting, trying to make sure she doesn't forget him. The other is focused on his mission, his purpose, his life. He spends quality time with her when they're together, but when they're apart, he lets her come to him. Which one do you think she starts missing? The first one smothers the space so she never has time to reflect. The second one gives her both the gift of presence and the gift of absence. He leaves her with powerful memories and then gives her the space to relive them on her own. That's the man who lingers in her mind. You see, women are emotional creatures. They attach feelings to memories. They don't sit there counting the number of texts you sent, but they do replay how they felt when you were beside them. They remember the way you looked into their eyes, the way your voice made them feel secure, the way your energy filled the silence without effort. When you're not around, these are the things that play in her head. That these are the things that make her smile when she's alone or wonder when she'll see you again. That's the emotional contrast at work. It's the difference between her current state and how she feels with you. This is why being present when you are together is so critical. If you're distracted, half engaged, or constantly on your phone, then you're not creating powerful reference points for her to miss. But if you give her your full attention, if you make her feel seen, if you make her feel like she's the only one in the room, then those moments embed themselves in her memory. Later, when you're gone, those memories rise up and stir her emotions. She'll feel the absence because you left behind something valuable. Another thing to understand is that space amplifies value. It's like music. If there were no pauses between notes, there would be no rhythm, no beauty. The pauses make the melody meaningful. The same is true in relationships. Your absence is the pause that makes your presence meaningful. If you're always there, always available, there's no contrast, no rhythm, no longing. But when you balance closeness with space, you allow the melody of love to play out naturally. Men who fear losing a woman often destroy this balance. They cling tighter, thinking that presence equals love. But presence without contrast just feels like noise. It doesn't give her the chance to process her feelings, to realize on her own how much you mean to her. And when she realizes it on her own, without you pushing, that realization is far more powerful than anything you could ever say. It's authentic, it's hers, and it sticks. So, what a woman really feels when you're not around depends entirely on what you've given her when you are around. If you've been authentic, confident, and purposeful, if you've brought joy and emotional safety into her life, then your absence magnifies that value. She feels the emptiness where your energy used to be, and that makes her long for you. But if you've been needy, insecure, or inconsistent, your absence doesn't create longing, it creates relief. That's why the focus should always be on being the best version of yourself, so that the contrast works in your favor. When you're not around, what she feels is less to do with what you say and more to do with the energy you leave behind. Every man gives off a certain vibration in a relationship, and women are highly tuned into it. They feel it when you're sitting across from them. They feel it when you're holding them close. And they even feel it when you're nowhere near. That's why your confidence or your insecurity carries more weight than you think. If you're needy, clingy, and desperate for reassurance, she feels that even in your absence. If you're calm, strong, and secure, she feels that too. Your presence or lack of it doesn't just vanish when you're gone. Your energy lingers. This is where many men get things wrong. They think that when they're not physically present, the way to stay on her mind is to keep reminding her of themselves through constant texts, calls, or attention. But that constant need to be noticed doesn't communicate love. It communicates fear. It tells her that without her attention, you lose balance. And that energy is heavy. Instead of missing you, she feels pressured, like you're trying to force her to think about you instead of naturally letting her curiosity and emotions lead her back. That kind of insecurity kills attraction because it takes away her freedom to feel. Now contrast that with a man who doesn't chase, who doesn't panic in silence, who doesn't constantly reach out just to fill the gaps. Instead, he trusts that the time they spent together was meaningful enough. He trusts that he left a strong impression, and he carries on with his life, his goals, his mission. That confidence is felt even when he's not around. She can sense it in the way he doesn't beg for her attention. She notices it in the space he allows, the calm he brings, the quiet strength that says, I know who I am, and I don't need constant validation to prove it. That's the kind of energy that makes her feel safe, drawn in, and eventually addicted to your presence. When you're insecure, even in your absence, she feels suffocated. She checks her phone and sees multiple missed calls, endless texts, or needy attempts to get her attention. Instead of smiling and thinking of you fondly, she sighs and feels the weight of expectation. It's not love she feels, it's pressure. On the other hand, when you're confident, when you trust the space, she feels a lightness. She wonders about you because you're not forcing yourself into her mind. That wondering, that curiosity is what slowly turns into missing you. She starts thinking about you not because you demanded it, but because your absence makes her want to. Confidence is not just about what you project when you're face to face. It's about the consistency of who you are. If you carry yourself like a man who has purpose, discipline, and inner strength, she knows that energy doesn't vanish when you walk out the door. She can feel it in the silence. She knows you're not sitting around worrying about her every move. She knows you're not scrolling through your phone waiting for a message, and that knowing creates respect. Respect deepens attraction. Attraction, when nurtured, becomes love. Insecurity, on the other hand, is like an invisible cloud that follows you. Even if you're not with her, she can sense it in the way you overcompensate when you do reach out. She feels it in your tone, your timing, and your urgency. That cloud tells her you don't fully trust yourself or the bond you've built. And if you don't trust it, why should she? That's why so many men sabotage relationships without even realizing it. Not because of what they do when they're together, but because of the energy they radiate when they're apart. The truth is, a woman wants to feel your strength, not your weakness. She wants to feel like you're the calm in the storm, not the storm itself. When you're secure, she feels relaxed. When you're needy, she feels drained. That feeling stays with her whether you're there or not. And over time, those feelings shape the stories she tells herself about you. If her story is that you're strong, centered, and confident, she'll miss that energy when it's gone. If her story is that you're anxious, clingy, and insecure, she'll crave space instead. This is why self-control matters so much. It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about actually being okay with space, with silence, with distance. It's about knowing your value so deeply that you don't have to force it on anyone. When you carry that energy, she feels it even in your absence. And it creates a pull. Instead of you chasing her, she feels drawn back to you because she wants to be around the man whose confidence radiates even when he's not in the room. So, when you're not around, she's not just thinking about your last words or your last gesture. She's feeling the energy you left behind. Was it heavy or light? Was it desperate or calm? Was it needy or confident? Those feelings are what determine whether she misses you or feels relief. And the difference between the two is whether you live in insecurity or confidence. When you're not around, that one of the strongest things a woman reflects on is the level of emotional safety you bring into her life. Women don't just measure a relationship by the fun moments or the passion you share. They measure it by how they feel in your presence. Do they feel calm, understood, and valued, or do they feel anxious, tense, and unsure? That emotional imprint doesn't disappear when you leave the room. It stays with her, and it's what she replays when you're not there. If you've been the kind of man who makes her feel safe, who listens without judgment, who allows her to express herself freely, she notices that absence deeply. She might be going about her day, but something will remind her of the peace she felt with you, the way she could open up and just be herself. That's when she starts to miss you, not because you forced your presence on her, but because she felt something valuable with you that she doesn't find everywhere. Emotional safety is rare, and once a woman experiences it, your absence makes her crave it even more. On the other hand, if you've created chaos, if you've been overly reactive, controlling, or dismissive of her emotions, then your absence doesn't feel like loss, it feels like relief. Instead of missing you, she feels lighter without the stress. This is where a lot of men misunderstand the dynamic. They assume that missing someone is automatic, but it isn't. It depends entirely on what you've given her emotionally when you were present. If she associates you with comfort, laughter, and security, she longs for you. If she associates you with tension and drama, she distances herself in every way she can. The beauty of emotional safety is that it builds trust over time. When you show up consistently, when you stay calm in conflict, when you're honest and steady, she begins to trust not just your words, but your presence. And when she trusts that presence, your absence has weight. She doesn't just think of you as another man, she thinks of you as her anchor, her safe space. That realization is powerful because it sets you apart. It makes you irreplaceable in her eyes, and that's when missing you becomes real. So when you're not around, she's not just remembering the surface moments, she's feeling the emotional imprint you left behind. Did you give her peace or did you give her stress? Did you build her trust or shake it? Did you make her feel valued or ignored? Those feelings are what define how much she misses you when you're gone. When you're not around, one of the most important realizations she has is whether you are truly irreplaceable or just forgettable. At first, attraction can feel exciting and new, but over time, distance reveals the truth. When she's alone, when the silence sets in, she starts to measure what you actually mean to her. Does she feel a longing for your energy, your presence, your unique way of making her feel? Or does she feel indifferent, like your absence doesn't really change anything in her life? That's the test every man faces, and it's one you don't pass by chasing or begging. It's one you pass by being unforgettable in her heart. What makes you irreplaceable is not just how you look or the things you do, but the way you make her feel when she's with you. A woman can meet 100 men, but if none of them make her feel what you make her feel, she'll always come back in her thoughts to you. Maybe it's the way you listen when she speaks, the way you carry yourself with quiet confidence, the way you inspire her to feel safe, feminine, and free. Those are things she can't buy, and she can't duplicate with just anyone else. That's what sticks in her mind when you're gone. Irreplaceability also comes from consistency. Any man can impress a woman for a night or even for a few weeks, but what makes the difference is whether you consistently show up as the same grounded, authentic person over time. If you're steady, if you live with purpose, if you maintain your standards and don't lose yourself, she notices that. When you're not around, she compares you to others, and suddenly she realizes how rare that consistency is. Most men fold under pressure, most men compromise who they are, most men let insecurity drive them. But if you're different, if you stand firm, that contrast makes you unforgettable. On the flip side, if you blend in with every other man she's ever known, if your words and actions don't leave an impression, then your absence doesn't matter much. She doesn't replay your energy. She doesn't crave your presence because nothing about you stood out. That's why becoming a man of value is so essential, not just for her, but for yourself. When you live with purpose, confidence, and authenticity, you naturally become the kind of man a woman can't easily replace. You're not trying to be special. You are special because you're aligned with who you are. And when she realizes you're irreplaceable, that's when missing you becomes undeniable. That's when absence doesn't just create space, it creates desire. She doesn't just think of you, she feels the lack of you. She knows deep down that what you bring into her life isn't something she can find anywhere else, and that's when love takes root. And that's why distance reveals whether you're truly unforgettable or just another memory.